you do, please send me a reply in the chat room to let me know. Okay, so thanks for your reply. Okay, so I assume everything just normal. Okay, then we will start the lecture. Okay, so for the lesson of the chemistry 7460. Okay, the forensic analysis. So for the forensic analysis, so that is one unit. Okay, so that is a elective courses for the MSc program in the analytical chemistry. So I believe, okay, in the course, okay, so we do have around 20 something students, and I guess everyone should know me, okay, so Dr. Ho, okay, so from the chemistry department, and for any questions or problem related to the course, okay, actually you can send me email, okay, so my email address that is right here, okay, so you can send me email so that we can have certain kinds of discussion. And I guess right now, you still can come back to the campus and drop by my office for face-to-face discussion. But I guess everybody right now may not be that feasible, okay, to go out, okay, because the pandemic situation, it is quite bad, okay, in Hong Kong. Okay, so before I talk about the course content, okay, let me give you a brief introduction of the course. So I believe, okay, so everyone knows we have the attendance requirement. So in the University Student Handbook, in the general regulation for the top postgraduate degrees, so point 4, we have the attendance. So for 4.1, students are expected to attend all scheduled class, okay? So we just say that we expect you to join the lesson, okay? So right now we have all the class online. So actually I will provide you with the lecture recording, okay? So that will be available in our Moodle classroom after each class, okay? So actually, if you are not possible or if you cannot join the real-time lecture, actually you can always go back for the lecture recording. So for some condition, so if you want to justify for some makeup, so you have to provide us with the written explanation with the supporting document. So in this course, actually we have 2 assessments. So by the end of April, so you're going to submit a term paper. Okay, so the deadline, so that will be the 23rd of April. Okay, so I will show you more details several slides later on. So if you cannot submit the term paper on time, okay, so if you need some more time, please let me know, okay, in advance, okay. So in case that you are being sick, okay, or you are sent into the quarantine camp, okay, so actually, so please let me know, okay, in advance, okay, so that we can make some special arrangement that you can submit the term paper somehow a little bit later, okay. So for the other assessment, so that will be the final exam. So hopefully the final exam will be arranged in May, okay? And then the online, that will be online setting, okay? So obviously in this semester, we don't have any face-to-face examination. So we will have an online examination. And for the setting, so we will let you know later on, okay? But that will be an online exam in May. So in case that on the date of the exam, you cannot take the exam, okay? So you still have to let us know, okay? So that is somehow for those kinds of term paper for the final exam, if you really cannot take it on time, okay? So you have to let us know, okay? So for the class schedule, so we have 6 classes, okay? And each of 2 hours only. So altogether, we have 12 hours for the content, okay, for the teaching. So starting from today, okay, so today that is the 1st of March, and then next Tuesday, next Tuesday, and until, okay, the 12th of April, okay, so altogether we have 6 lectures. So I will be the only instructor, okay, so in the course, okay, so I will be responsible for all the 6 classes. And the time, okay, that will be 7 to 9. And then for the venue, especially that will be online. Okay, so we will make use of the Zoom. Okay, so for the online lecture. So within each class, okay, I will give you a 10 minutes break. Okay, so normally that will be around 8. Okay. So for the course aim, this course provides you with the in-depth knowledge on the analytical techniques, okay, used in the forensic science. So most likely, we will focus on the techniques, okay, that is applied for the forensic analysis. So that means we will just mainly focus on the somehow like the application, how we can apply those kinds of analytical techniques. Okay, so especially for those kinds of chemical instrumentation. So let's say the GC/LC or the mass spec or the atomic spectrometry. So how they can be applied, okay, in the field of forensic science. So how to deal with the crime cases. So we will focus in this way. So for the course intended learning outcome, so I hope you can read it by yourself, okay? Because these kinds of course intended learning outcome will be related to the question that we set in the final exam, okay? So for the exam question, actually I provide you with some past paper in the library, okay? So you can just check it out, okay? Then you will know, okay? So what kinds of question has been said, okay, in the past, okay? But what you can be imagine is the question they are related to the course intended learning outcome. So here shows you more in details, okay, so for the assessment. So as I mentioned, we will have 2 assessments for this course. So for the first one, that will be 50%, okay, so that will be the term paper. And then the submission deadline will be the 23rd of April. So 23rd of April, so that is the last day of teaching, okay, for this semester. Okay, so I will just ask you to submit me the term paper just by the end, okay? So somehow that will be 23rd of April. So for the term paper, somehow I will send out the topics, okay? So in late March, okay? So somehow there will be late March, okay? So I will send out the topic. So at the same time, I will also provide you with the guideline, okay? So how many pages that I expect, and then can you include certain kind of photos or diagrams? So I will provide you with all kinds of details somehow in late March, okay? Then you will have around 1 month, okay, to finish to write up the term paper, okay? I guess that will be more than enough. So in May, okay, so we are going to have a 2-hour final examination, okay? So that will contribute 50% to the overall assessment, okay? For the examination, 2 hours only, then obviously that will be in an online setting. Then for the format, okay, so whether that will be closed book or whether that will be open book, whether it will be a take-home format or it will be certain kinds of Zoom invigilation. So I will let you know later, okay, because we have to discuss, okay, within the department. But right now, what we can guarantee that must be an online exam. Okay, but for the setting, okay, so I will let you know later on. And in view of the final exam, that will include all the material taught in the course. Okay, so for the 12 hours, for the 6 lectures, so all will be included. So here shows you the course content. So we will have the first lecture material to talk about the overview of forensic science. Okay. Especially what do we do, okay, so for the forensic science, and with the forensic science, how we can help to solve the crime cases, and how we process the crime scene, and what kinds of analysis that we will expect, okay, so that will be somehow giving you an overview, an introduction, okay, of the forensic science. So secondly, we will talk about the abused drug identification, okay, so especially we are talking about the illegal drug. So how we can analyze the drug sample in order to say, okay, whether that is the legal one versus the illegal one. So for the third content, okay, so that will be the forensic toxicology. So especially we will quite emphasize in the poison analysis, okay. So in view of some poisoning cases, okay, so how we can analyze the poison within the victim's body, okay, especially from the blood sample, from the urine sample, or even from different kinds of organ. So how we can analyze, okay, whether there is a presence of certain kinds of poison, whether the amount that is good enough, okay, to cause the poisoning. Okay, so that will be the poison analysis in the forensic toxicology. And then for the fourth lecture material, so we will talk about the forensic blood grouping as well as the DNA profiling. So in short, okay, we are going to talk about the blood analysis. Okay, so with the blood sample, so how we can make use of the blood group. Okay, so that will be falling into the ABO system as well as the DNA sequence, how we can identify someone. Okay, so that will be related to the criminal identification. Okay, because how we know, okay, so this victim is who, or who is the suspect. Okay, so according to the face, okay, for the appearance, actually we may misidentify someone. Okay, but based on the blood group as well as the DNA sequence, okay, so that we can truly identify who you are. Okay, so that will be the blood analysis, okay, in view of the blood grouping as well as the DNA sequencing. So for the last part of the lecture, we will talk about the trace evidence analysis. So for the trace evidence, that will include quite a lot of different stuff, okay? For example, like the hair and fiber, the paint analysis, the glass fragment, the inflammable liquid, okay, the explosive, and also the gunshot residue. For example, like the document analysis, fingerprints analysis. Actually, those kinds of miscellaneous stuff, okay, will be included in the trace evidence analysis. So that will be the last part of the lecture. So for the reference book, okay, actually we do provide you quite a lot of reference, okay, for the supplementary, okay. So as you can see, we provide you with a book for the investigative technique, okay, so that will be how we process the crime scene. And we also talk about the analytical toxicology, so that will be the poison analysis. So we provide you with a reference for the drug analysis. So how we apply the mass spec, okay, for certain kinds of forensic application. So some books are provided for the trace evidence analysis, especially for the glass, the paint, and also the fiber, okay. So actually, if you think, okay, my lecture material that is not comprehensive enough, okay, actually you can do more reading, okay. So this reference, okay, you can find it in the library, okay. So our library is still open, okay. If you come back, you want to borrow some books, okay, actually you can just do it, okay. So that will be the stuff, okay, that I want to do, okay, in the introduction, okay. So any questions or problem at this moment before I move to the first topic, okay, related to the overview of forensic science? So if there's no question, just type in no, okay, in the chat room to let me know. Okay, so otherwise, I don't know whether you know or whether you don't know. Okay, so no problem, then that will be good. Okay, so one thing to just further remind you, okay, so in the course we have two assessments. Okay, so term paper plus the final exam. So actually, for the term paper, they will give you some basic score, okay, in order to guarantee that somehow you will not fail, okay, so the course, okay, and then how well you are, how good you are, then that will be dependent on the final exam, okay. So just apart from the other courses, as far as you know, for the sample pretreatment, they only have a final exam, but right now we have a term paper actually to play safe. Okay, so then we move to the first lecture material. Okay, so that will be the overview of forensic science. So in this part, okay, I will briefly introduce to you what is the definition of forensic science. So with the science, so how we can be help, okay, with the crime cases. So with the crime cases, so how we can process the crime scene. So with the physical evidence being obtained, okay, so what kinds of service will be provided in the lab, okay, so especially in the crime lab, okay. So in a crime lab, so what kinds of analysis, okay, that will be conducted, okay, so that we can be provided with certain kinds of information in order to solve, okay, the crime case. So in view of the analysis, I will also talk about the main objective, okay, especially how we can identify what it is. And then we try to do a comparison in order to trace the origin, okay? So that will be somehow the things, okay, that we are going to cover in this lecture material. Okay, so to begin with, okay, so that will be the definition of forensic science. So normally for the forensic science, okay, so in its practice definition, so we will just say that, so that will be the application of science to law. Okay, so that will be the definition of forensic science. Okay, so forensic, okay, so somehow that will be related to the legal system. Okay, so the court law. And then for the science, okay, so that will be the general science. Okay, so that will include the let's say physics, chemistry, biology, toxicology, engineering, medicine, pathology. So all kinds of science, okay? So we want to apply the scientific knowledge, okay, those kind of scientific techniques, okay, in order to solve the crime cases. So in order to review, okay, so those kinds of activity to see whether those activity that is complying with the legal system, okay, so complying with the law or that is violating the law. So that is what we try to do, okay? Because for the law, okay, so actually that is a certain kinds of regulation in order to regulate, okay, your daily activity. So maybe you may just say, okay, so the law just saying to you, okay, you cannot kill anyone, okay? Then now, okay, somebody has been killed, okay, then we try to apply the science to see whether who is the murderer. Okay, so the murderer killed someone actually violating the law, okay, he or she should send into the prison. Okay, so that is how, okay, we deal with the forensic science. Or in a more general situation, okay, so not try to kill someone, maybe within the law, okay, so they regulate the amount of heavy metal, okay, in the drinking water. So let's say in the Hong Kong drinking water standard, so they try to regulate that the maximum amount of lead, okay, in drinking water that is 10 ppb, okay. So right now we are provided with a drinking water sample so that we are applying certain kinds of science, okay, especially we try to measure the lead content, okay, by the ICP mass to see how much lead are there in order to see whether that is existing 10 ppb or that is below 10 ppb. So below 10 ppb, then that will be complying with the law. So above, okay, higher than 10 ppb, then that will be violating the law. Okay, so that is how, okay, we deal with the forensic science. Okay, so we try to see, okay, whether in a situation or an activity, okay, so using certain kinds of scientific knowledge and also scientific measurement in order to draw a conclusion to see whether that is within, okay, the law or actually that is violating the law. So right here, what you can be imagine is for the science that we apply, that is quite a lot, okay? Therefore, for a forensic science subject, that is an interdisciplinary subject. But right now we are offering this course, okay, within the chemistry department. So what you can be expect is the science that we use, okay, to solve the crime case that will be heavily related to the chemistry, especially that will be the analytical chemistry. Okay, so those kinds of instrumental analysis. Okay, so how we apply those kinds of spectroscopic technique, chromatographic technique, or even a mass spec, okay, doing some analysis, okay, in order to draw some information, draw out some conclusion to see whether that will be within the legal system or not. But at the same time, I will also talk about a little bit on the bioanalytical chemistry, okay? So that will be certain kinds of bioanalysis, okay? Because for checking with the DNA, so we need to play with the PCR, we need to play with the gel electrophoresis, checking with the blood group, okay? So that will be the agglutination test. So even with the poison analysis, we will apply the biosensor, okay? So the immunochromatographic assay, okay? So that will be related a little bit in the bioanalytical chemistry. But what you expect, okay? So that will be heavily related to the chemistry part. So for the forensic science, although that is a science, but the thinking logic that is a little bit different from the traditional science, okay? So that is shown in the picture at the bottom right-hand corner, okay? So on the left-hand side one, that is how we do, okay, with science. So probably we try to make an hypothesis, then we try to conduct the experiment. So finally, we try to see whether the hypothesis that is valid or not, then we can draw the conclusion. So that is a logic we call as the inductive reasoning. Okay, so that will be one way going straight forward. Okay, but in terms of the forensic science, okay, that will be in an opposite. Normally, we will do it in a deductive reasoning. Okay, so first we try to make a conclusion. Okay, so in order to see whether any kinds of supporting document will be support, okay, with the conclusion that we draw at the very early beginning. So what it means is we try to draw a conclusion first, and then we try to conduct the experiment to see whether those kinds of experimental data, whether they are supporting the conclusion that we draw or not. Okay, so actually that will be a little bit different, but we don't try to bother it a lot, okay? So we're just doing the things for ourselves, okay? So applying science in order to see whether that is complying with the law or not, okay? So that will be the forensic science, okay, the definition. So with the science, okay, so actually how we can help out with the crime cases. So normally that will be an analysis, okay? So with the analysis, so by applying the science, actually, we can be provided with certain kinds of accurate and objective information. Okay, so that is the information that we obtain. So probably if you are now conducting an experiment, okay, so you are obtaining some data, okay? So those kind of data, those kinds of experimental results, so we will just treat it as the accurate and objective information. So with this kind of accurate and objective information, okay, so from each of the physical evidence, then we can try to review, okay, so let's say right now we can see some blood stain, okay, at the crime scene, okay, so we conduct the blood analysis in order to see whether the blood, okay, so belongs to who, okay, the blood maybe belong to the victim or the blood that is belong to the murderer, okay. So right now we can find a weapon, okay, so let's say that is a knife, okay, so in the crime scene, okay. So right now we can see some blood stain here, okay, so we try to check it, okay, so to see whether it belongs to who, or even from the handle, okay, so actually we try to check whether it has any fingerprints. So with the fingerprints, then we can know who has been holding the knife, okay, or even at the crime scene, okay, we can check some footprints, okay, in order to see who has been visit, okay, the crime scene, okay. So actually, with those kinds of information, then we can try to link up all the events together. Then we can try to build up a story, okay, in order to see whether the activity, whether that is violating the law or complying with the law, okay. So actually that will be heavily related to the information that we obtain. So if the information that we obtain that is not accurate, okay, actually that will be in a problem, okay, because if now you're having an inaccurate information, okay, and inaccurate data, the result that you have that is not accurate, actually probably you are going to draw a wrong conclusion. To be quite simple, okay, so right now the situation is the law, okay, just regulating the drinking water, okay, so it cannot contain 10 ppb of lead, okay. So right now you apply the ICP mask, okay, to conduct the lead analysis. So if now, okay, the result showing up that it contains, let's say, 8 ppb lead, so actually no problem, okay, so it is within the legal system. But what we try to say is, if now, okay, the result that you have, the 8 ppb, that is inaccurate, okay, because in the analytical chemistry, in an analysis, you know, okay, we have the things known as the accuracy, okay. So if the accuracy that is not high, okay, that is inaccurate, actually, if you just try to draw a conclusion to say, okay, so it is no problem, it complies with the regulation, maybe you are wrong, okay, maybe 8 ppb, that is a wrong number. In real, okay, so you are being deviated, let's say from 50%. maybe the true concentration that is 12. Then with 12 ppb lead, okay, actually that is not complying with the law. Okay, actually that will be in an opposite conclusion. So you have to make sure that the science that you apply, okay, especially the analysis that you apply, okay, they has to be accurate. Otherwise, you are going to have a wrong conclusion. The other thing that is the information should be objective. Okay, so what I mean is don't argue with your data. Okay, so the data provided to you from an analysis. So if the analysis that is accurate and precise, okay, they are reliable. So don't argue with that. Okay, so you have to take the data, okay, as the real data. Okay, so unless, okay, they are inaccurate, okay, then you argue with that. Okay, otherwise, if the technique, okay, that you use that is accurate and precise, the data that you obtain should be reliable. Okay, so with the reliable data, you have to trust it. Okay, so don't argue with that. Okay, because for some situation, we do have certain kinds of human bias. Okay, so maybe right now, after you conduct the analysis and then later on you, from the information that you obtain, you will just say that, okay, a very, very beautiful lady will be the murderer. Okay, so actually if you see, okay, with a beautiful lady, then you will be just saying that, so a beautiful lady should not kill someone. Okay, so actually you're arguing, okay, with the things that you have. Okay, so no human bias are there. Okay, so you have to trust, okay, the data that you have. Okay, so all the data, if they're reliable, you have to trust it. Okay, so that is somehow the linkage. Okay, so between the science to the law. Okay, so from the science, applying the scientific knowledge and the scientific methodology, applying the analysis. So we try to be provided with the accurate and objective information. So after that, okay, so we can try to draw a conclusion to see whether that is within the law or actually that is violating the law. So from the analysis, okay, so from the forensic science, that is not something new, okay, to us. So actually, those kinds of techniques and skills has been evolving from the past to the present. Okay, so actually, 2,000 years ago, okay, so that will be in the ancient Romans time or in the ancient China's time. Okay, actually, people are holding the court and the discussion in the marketplace. Okay, in order to solve the crime case. So at that moment, what they try to do is in the marketplace. So they are sitting with a judge at the same time with the jury. So right now, some victim or some suspect or some witness are there in order to provide the statement. Okay, so what they have been seen, so what they have been told, or somehow how they self-defend themselves. Okay, so they hold some discussion. So later on, the jury will just make a discussion to see whether which side, okay, will be much more trustful, okay, and then the judge will be finally making a decision in order to just close the case, okay. But in that moment, okay, so if we just, okay, based on the witness, based on the suspect, based on the victim, okay, actually they may be telling lies, or they will forget something. Okay, so actually those kinds of information, they are not that accurate, not that reliable. Somehow maybe 2 to 3 people will come together to make a story in order to eliminate their enemy or opponents. Actually, there will be no, okay, guarantee that those kinds of cases at the end, okay, they are really judged, okay, in a correct way. Okay, so from the times go, okay, actually when time goes for around 1,000 years. Okay, actually that will be in the Song Dynasty in China. So at that moment, there is a person called as Song Qi. Okay, so from the student, actually, if you see the drama in TVB, okay, so actually you should know about Song Qi. Okay, so actually that is added by Ouyang Zhenhua. Okay, so some time ago. Okay, so actually Song Qi, he is the guy. Okay. A medical doctor. Okay, so actually he was quite clever. Okay, at that moment he tried to propose. Okay, so with the dead body. Okay, so because right now somebody has been killed. Okay, so we now have a victim, a dead body. How we can be checked? Okay, with the autopsy. Okay, so the dead body in order to know about the cause of death. Okay, because different weapon, okay, or different way, okay, actually the appearance of the dead body would be different, okay. So let me show you a little bit. So right now, you can be imagine that two situations. So if now, okay, some people try to hand off themselves, okay, to commit suicide, okay. So right now we have a rock, okay, to hand off myself, okay, to commit suicide. Actually, the force, okay, will be pointing upward, okay, because I'm handing myself, okay. So the force will be pointing upward, okay. So the wound, okay, will be somehow at this part, okay. So actually will be pointing up. So if now, okay, some people make use of the rock, okay, in order to kill you, actually that will be at the behind, okay. So actually the wound, okay, will be somewhere on the neck, okay, and the force will be pointing backward, okay. So actually, if right now we are checking with the wound, okay, actually we will be able to tell whether this case, okay, that is a suicide cases or actually that is a murderer cases, okay. Or right now, making use of a knife, okay, in order to kill someone. Actually, the wound, okay, the size and the shape, okay, will also be unique. Then you can know about what kinds of weapon has been used. At the same time, for some dead body that is recovered, let's say in the river or somehow in the sea, okay. So for the guy, he or she died because of the suffocation, okay, in water, or the guy has been killed, okay, and then thrown into the river. Actually, by checking the dead body, we can have the answer. Okay, so with the autopsy analysis, then right now we can know about the cause of death. Okay, especially in case of the physical injury. Okay, but as you can know, okay, in order to kill someone, there's no need to have the physical injury. Actually, you can feed him or her, okay, with certain kinds of poison. Okay, so with the poison, actually by checking the dead body, you cannot reveal anything, because if you feed someone with the poison, he or she, okay, that is dead already, actually there is no injury, okay, so on the dead body. So in case of that, okay, so some people that will be have the study, okay, so on the forensic toxicology, okay, so that is the guy known as Ovila, okay, so he make use of some animals, okay, in order to do some toxicology study, okay, so he tried to feed different kinds of poison to the animal to see, okay, with the respective effect. So from those kind of respective effect, okay, then he tried to extrapolate to a human, okay, so that, okay, the forensic toxicology has been established in this way. So right now, with the dead body analysis and also with the toxicology, so basically, no matter that is a physical injury or no matter that is a poisoning cases, so we should be able to know about the cause of death. Okay, so later on, people try to argue, okay, so right now when we're seeing someone, so actually who she is or who he is, okay, because as far as you know, by checking with the appearance, okay, so actually that will be quite difficult to identify someone, especially when you go to Korea, okay, so actually all the ladies, okay, are looking somehow similar, okay. So for those kinds of gentlemen, okay, so actually more or less the same, okay, they are sharing similar eyebrows, similar noses, okay. Actually, by checking with the appearance, actually it will be quite difficult to do so. So that's why, okay, people start to think about how we can make use of the scientific measurement to know about the identity of a person. So at the time, okay, in the 90 something, okay, so in the early 90s, okay, actually a person that is known as Bartanon, okay, so he have the criminal identification, okay, so based on the anthropometry. So with the anthropometry, actually he proposed to measure the body, okay, so by different parameter. For example, like try to measure the height of someone, try to measure the length of the arm, try to measure the circumference of the forehead. Actually, there are 9, okay, so body parameter to be proposed, okay. So if right now you are being matched, okay, with all the 9 body parameter, actually that is no denying that should be you, okay. But by making use of the anthropometry, that will be quite vary within the time. Because for example, you know, okay, so as a baby, as a teenager, as an adult to an elderly, actually your body parameter that is keep changing, okay? So with the anthropometry, actually that will be only last, let's say, for 10 years only, okay? So they may not be that unique, okay? So for the criminal identification. So that's why, okay, a person, Francis Galton, so he started to study the uniqueness of the fingerprints, okay? So that is where we start, okay? So to study the uniqueness of the fingerprints, and then he concluded that no matter how close, okay, you are, okay, with your brother, sister, your mother, or even your father, or even identical twins, okay, actually you will have different fingerprints. That may be similar, but that will be unique, and also there must be a different, okay? So therefore, based on the fingerprint analysis, so that will be a universal way, okay, to identify someone. And later on, as far as you may know, okay, in a crime scene, so one of the quite common physical evidence that we could be recovered, that is the blood, okay? So with the blood, okay, can we identify someone? Okay, so that is the idea come with the blood group, okay? So with the blood group, then there will be the ABO system. So for example, like, let's say in the crime scene, okay, so we have been recovered that there is a blood stain, okay, blood group A. So now the victim, that is blood group A, okay, then actually tentatively we can draw a connection, okay, so the blood stain may belong to the victim, okay, so actually we can make use of the blood group, okay, to draw some tentative connection, okay, so between the evidence towards the victim or the suspect. So as the weapon has been further in advance, okay, as you know, okay, now it is not trying to make use of a hammer, making use of the knife, okay, actually nowadays with the gun shooting cases, okay, so people try to deal with the forensic ballistic, okay, so for the ballistic that is related to the gun shooting cases. So how we can correlate the bullet, okay, that has been shooting out from a gun, okay, in order to try to recover the bullet, then we can know what kinds of gun are there. So then who hold the gun, okay, to shoot out the bullets. So that is the way, okay, how they apply the forensic ballistic. So in the modern day, document examination, that is quite important, okay, because nowadays people are quite common to sign their contract, sign their bank note, or their bank check, or even their last will, okay? So that will be quite important to know about the trueness, okay, so of a document. So whether this document has been written by someone, or actually that is having someone just pretend, okay, to be you, okay, to write, okay, for this document. So we have to do some document examination. So with the application of the microscope, actually we can see something more. Because normally with our naked eyes, okay, we can be able to see something that we can see, okay, but in some situation, if the evidence is quite tiny or quite small, okay, so actually we have to apply the microscope to expand our vision, okay, because for the microscope, for the normal optical microscope, we have the magnification power maximum somehow of 1,000, okay, so actually you can be enhanced a lot, okay, in order to see something that is quite small. Maybe right now you get an impression, okay, so different person has been inventing something, okay, so different person has been inventing some techniques, okay, in order to apply, okay, for the forensic analysis. But actually they will be quite separate with each other, okay, so actually it is not adding as a whole. So that's why, okay, some people start to propose, okay, so why not we try to group all the techniques together, try to group all the skills, grouping all the things together, so that we can be quite comprehensive in order to provide, okay, with the forensic service. So that is the starting point, okay, so why, okay, in the modern day, currently we are seeing with the crime lab, okay, so because, okay, now we try to be comprehensive, okay, so everything they just be combined, okay, in a crime lab, okay. So in a crime lab, okay, so we try to do different kinds of analysis, okay, so with the analysis, so that we could be provided with the accurate and the objective information. So that's somehow why, okay, so we start, okay, with a crime lab in the world. The first crime lab in the world that has been started in France, okay, so that will be set up by Edmond Lucas. So Edmond Lucas, that is not the famous guy, okay, to start the first crime lab in the world. Actually, he also proposed a very famous principle, okay, so that is the exchange principle, to say, okay, So every contact leave a trace. Okay, so actually that will be quite easy to understand. For example, like, okay, so I use my hand, okay, so to touch on the whiteboard, okay. So actually, if every contact leave a trace, what it means is when I touch the whiteboard, so my fingerprints will be left behind on the whiteboard. At the same time, the surface coating or even the ink, okay, so on the whiteboard will just get onto my finger. So actually, we have certain kinds of things, okay, to be exchanged. Then when you are analyzing the whiteboards, then you know, okay, with my fingerprints, so that you can draw a conclusion to say I have been touching the whiteboards. And if you check with my finger, then you check for some surface coating of the whiteboard, okay, then you can say, okay, my finger has been touching the whiteboard. Actually, we have certain kinds of exchange of the material. So with this kind of exchange, okay, then that will be quite universal, okay, to solve a crime case. Because right now, what you can be imagine is when we have the crime cases, at least we have one murder, okay, or one guy, okay, in order to do something bad. And then right now we have a victim, okay, so someone has been injured, someone has been hurt, okay. So he or she may be in contact with each other, okay, so that we have the murder, okay, and also the victim, okay. So if now, okay, we have the victim, actually we can be checking some information so that we can know about who is the murderer. So if we can chat about the murderer, okay, actually we can be connected with the victim, okay, because by the exchange principle, there is an exchange, okay, of the material. So at the same time, okay, so these two persons will be both, okay, appear, okay, in a crime scene, okay, so in a scene, okay, in a location, okay. So in that location, obviously you could be able to find, okay, the information from the victim and also the murderer, because both of them, they have been visited the crime scene, okay. So therefore, with this kind of logic, okay, very importantly is if we can visit the crime scene, actually we can obtain the information from the victim and also from the murderer. Actually, we could be able to do the analysis and then provide them with the information so that we can be solve, okay, the crime case finally, okay. So that is somehow before the crime lab. So we have a crime scene, okay. So from the crime scene, okay, so we try to obtain the sample, okay. And the sample, okay, so that is what we say, okay, for the physical evidence, okay. So with the physical evidence, okay, so connected to everyone, okay, so actually by the analysis in the crime lab, okay, applying the autopsy analysis, blood analysis, ballistic analysis, document analysis, or even the fingerprint analysis, or whatever kind of analysis, so that we can obtain the information. So later on, we can know about whether there is something, okay, that is violating the law. So after the setting up the crime lab, okay, in France, okay, actually, US also doing similar things, and also the United Kingdom also doing the similar things, and actually nowadays all over the world, okay, we are doing similar thing. Okay, so in Hong Kong, we have a government laboratory. Okay, so inside there is a forensic division. Okay, so that will be responsible for all kinds of forensic service. Okay, so in Hong Kong. So right now, let me provide you with some more details. Okay, so in the crime laboratory. Okay, because previously, you know, okay, different person has been established something. Okay, but actually, what are there? Okay, so in a crime lab. Okay, so nowadays. So normally in a crime lab, okay, there will be divided with different kinds of service. So we are having some basic service, okay, and also we have some optional service, and also we have some specialized service, okay. So those kind of service, okay, so we can be divided them into 3 different categories. Okay, so basic one, optional one, and the specialized one. So in the basic service, actually there would be a physical science unit. So normally in the physical science unit, what you can be see that is the chemistry, the physics. Okay, so making use of the chemistry and physics in order to deal with the evidence, okay, the analysis of an evidence. So what it means is, to be simple, so we try to apply some physical method, try to apply some chemical method, okay, so in order to conduct the analysis, okay, so physical method and the chemical method. So for the biological unit, okay, so biology unit, okay, so by the name you know, okay, we apply the biology. So that will be the bioanalysis, okay, so with the bioanalysis, okay, that will be conducted in the biology unit. And most importantly, with the application of the bioanalysis, okay, the sample that we have, okay, will be some biological sample. Okay, so body fluid, maybe the blood, maybe the urine, okay, maybe the saliva, hair and fiber, botanic material, vegetative matter. So actually, those kinds of things, okay, are the biological sample. Okay, so in the biology unit, bioanalysis, biological sample. So with the bio, okay, so with the bio, okay, so they will get into the biology unit for the analysis. So apart from the chemistry, physics, and biology, they're setting up a special, setting up a unit, okay, to deal with the firearm. So for the firearm, that will be the forensic ballistic, okay, so checking with the gun, checking with the bullets, okay, checking with the gunshot residue. So those, okay, kinds of bullets, the gun, okay, will be investigated by the firearm unit. Most importantly, for the bullets, okay, shooting out from a gun, actually there will be some unique marking, okay, so that will be unique, okay, to the gun shooting out the bullets, okay, so actually by the mark, okay, appear on the bullets. So actually we can trace back, okay, which gun, okay, has been shoot out that particular bullet. Okay, so actually we can make a connection. Okay, so with the gun, actually we can know who has been holding the gun. Okay, so fingerprints, or when you shoot out the bullets, actually your hand, okay, will be covered by the gunshot residue. Okay, actually we can do this kind of analysis in order to know, okay, who shoot out the bullet, who is the murderer. So actually that will be done. So document examination units, okay, so that will be checking the trueness or the source of the question document in order to tell whether this document has been written by someone or actually that has been written by someone that is pretended, or at the same time for some bank note, okay, or the bank check, okay. So maybe some people will try to be greedy, okay, so in order to add some more zero at the behind of the number, so that they can be taking out more money. So how we can know, okay, so which zero that has been truly written, so which zero has been newly added, okay, so that will be something that we can try to check. Or for some document, some people try to hidden, okay, their things, okay, to deal with something bad. They may try to erase, okay, the writing, okay, so actually, if the erasure, we still can check it. But right now, okay, in the document examination unit, it is not only checking with the handwriting. So actually those kind of typewriting, okay, so we also try to check with that, okay, because for the typewriting, we can check it with the printing document, then actually we can be able to check back, trace back the printer. So with tracing back the printer, actually we can be tracing back the computer. So actually with the computer, we can know who owns the computer. So actually typewriting, okay, will also be checked in the document examination unit. So in order to process the crime scene or even to recall, okay, the physical evidence, okay, they have a photograph unit. So in order to somehow record down the physical evidence, okay, but at the same time, we try to see something that is invisible. Because what you can be imagined is, so let's say for the fingerprint that I left, okay, on the whiteboard, actually that will not be visible, okay, to anyone. So how we can reveal these kinds of latent fingerprints, okay, the invisible fingerprints? Maybe we need to make use of other kinds of lighting, okay? Maybe we need a infrared light, okay, in order to reveal, okay, so anything that is hidden, okay, so there. Especially for some writing, okay, so document examination. So they will check, okay, with different kinds of lighting, okay, because under UV, under visible, under IR, actually the document will show differently, okay. Actually, there will be a way, okay, help, okay, to deal with the analysis. So in terms of the optional service, okay, so we are setting up with a toxicology unit. So actually in the past, okay, the work, okay, done by the toxicology unit that can be done by the chemistry, by the physical science, or can be done in a biology unit. But in view of the workload, it is really, really high, okay? They try to separate it out, okay, to the toxicology unit, okay? So for the toxicology unit, by the name you know, that will be conducting the poison analysis, okay? Especially the poison inside someone's body, okay? Because what you can be imagine, the drug and the poison, that is a certain kind of chemical. So it should be chemical analysis. But right now, the sample that we have, that is the body fluid, the organ, so that is the biological sample. So actually there will be a mix, okay, of the physical science unit and the biology unit. But now, okay, they try to separate out, okay, so that they are dealing with a specific task. So for the fingerprints, normally you may be faked, okay, by the TV drama or by the TV movie. Actually, in the world, we don't have a magical machine, okay? So when we put up the fingerprints inside the machine and then we press start, then ding ding, okay, so we have the answer. Actually, we don't have those kind of magical instruments. So for the fingerprint unit, normally we have to check the fingerprints manually, okay? So with the unknown fingerprints, we try to compare with a reference fingerprint. So we just try to do it side by side in order to see whether they are the same or not. So if now, okay, the reference one doesn't match with the unknown one, then we try to change, okay, another. Okay, so we try to do it manually in order to match, okay. So this fingerprint that belongs to someone, okay, so it has to be a manual work, okay. So we don't have any magical instrument, okay, to deal with that. So in the past, okay, they have a polygraph unit in order to check, to see whether people are telling lies or not. But right now, what you can be imagine, we don't have any polygraph, okay, so we try to replace it with the forensic psychiatry. So in order to have some people try to know, okay, whether he or she has been telling lies or not. So we do have a voice print analysis unit, because from the voice print, actually we can be able to identify someone, okay, because different people, they will speak differently. Okay, so their voice print, they will be different. By hearing their voice, actually you will know, okay, who he is or who she is. So that is another way, apart from the blood grouping, apart from the DNA sequencing, apart from the fingerprint. So making use of the voice, okay, will also be another way, okay, so to check with the identity. So they do have a crime scene investigation unit, okay, in order to process the crime scene. Because the crime scene, that is the things, okay, at the very early beginning. So we need some professional to pick up the sample. So if the sample has been damaged, the sample has been broken, the sample has been contaminated, the sample are having some problem, no matter how good you are dealing with the analysis, how accurate you are, actually you will getting a wrong answer, okay? Because at the very early beginning, you are wrong already, okay? So we need, okay, some professional to process the crime scene. So in the specialized service, okay, so there are some outsourced, okay, service. So for example, we need some pathologies, okay, in order to see, okay, the cause of death. Okay, so especially in Hong Kong for the autopsy analysis, we are dealing with that in the hospital. Okay, so we do have a medical doctor. So in order to have the autopsy analysis, in order to know the cause of death. So for some special cases, we may recover some skeleton. Okay, because of some crime cases, it has been happening for a long time ago. Okay, maybe right now the victim has been dead, okay, for a long time. So we can only find skeleton, okay, and also the scalp, okay, so of a person. So how we can making use of the skeleton and the scalp in order to know who he is and who she is. So most likely people will try to play with the anthropology. So in order to have the facial reconstruction. So is he or she a man or a woman? Okay, so how tall he is or how tall she is, and then so we can check with that. Or for some cases, maybe we can see some bones has been broken. Then maybe it is an injury, or for some cases, so we can play with that. So forensic entomology. So entomology that is related to the insect. So by the study, the growth of cycle of the insect, actually we can be estimating the time of death. At the same time, the entomology can also be applied for the toxicology study. Okay, so later on, I will talk about it later on, okay, for the entomology. For the forensic otology, so that will be related to the bite mark, okay. So maybe now, okay, imagine that two people, okay, so two persons are fighting with each other, then they are biking together, okay. So actually, when we check with the bite mark, then you know, okay, so who, okay, it is biting who. Or for some cases, okay, some crazy dog, okay, will bite some people, okay. So from the bite mark, we try to check with which dog, okay, has been biting the person, okay. So that will be the bite mark analysis. So for some physics, for some engineering, especially for some car accident or some aeroplane flight accident, actually we need to deal with some engineering. Okay, so accident reconstruction. Maybe you can be seeing when two cars crash together. Okay, so how they crash. Okay, so are there any deceleration before they crash, or which one crash first? Okay, towards the other. So actually that will be related to the engineering. But no matter what, okay, so all together, in a crime lab, okay, you can see we are provided with different kinds of analysis, okay. So with those kinds of analysis, we try to obtain the information. So now, okay, as far as you know, okay, so from the firearm analysis, you know which gun shoot out the bullets, okay, maybe from the document analysis, you know who write up the document, or maybe now, okay, we can check that there is certain kind of poison in the victim, so there will be poisoning cases. From the fingerprints, you know, okay, who has been touching the crime scene, who has been touching the weapon, who has been touching whatever. So actually, you will be getting a lot of information that will be related to the crime. Okay, then you try to link up the information, try to link up those kinds of information, link up those kind of events. So finally, you will be able to solve, okay, the crime case. Okay, so that will be somehow the things that I want to share with you for the first 1 hour. Okay, so maybe I first give you a 10 minutes break, okay, before I move on. Okay, so let's resume our lecture. Okay, so can you still hear from me? So if yes, okay, so please send me some reply in the chat room. Okay, so thanks for the reply. Okay, then we continue our lecture. So for the past 1 hour, then we have been knowing the definition of forensic science. Okay, so that will be the applications of science to law. Okay, so with science, so we try to be provided with the accurate and objective information. So with that kind of information, we can try to draw a conclusion in order to tell, okay, whether an activity or a situation, okay, that is complying with the legal system or not. Okay. So in order to obtain the accurate and objective information, so we have to apply the scientific knowledge, apply the scientific methodology. So conducting some analysis in the crime lab. So before we get with the crime lab, so we go to the crime scene to pick up some sample. But right now, what we have been end up with the analysis in the crime lab, so we have 3 different kinds of surface. So basic, optional, and specialized surface. So within, okay, those kind of surface, so there are some future challenge, okay, so nowadays. So especially in the biology unit, so nowadays people are all requesting for the DNA profiling, okay, so no matter what, so they will ask for the DNA profiling, okay, so in order to know who you are and who he is or who she is, okay, so for the DNA analysis, right now it is not that in an automation. Okay, so that will be quite labor intensive. Okay, in order to be dealing with the DNA. So apart from that, okay, as I mentioned, one of the optional surface that is related to the polygraph. But right now that has been replacing by the forensic psychiatry. Okay, so we have some people who are quite professional to be dealing with some people's behavior and also the legal proceeding. Okay, so we have those kind of things, okay, coming up. And now, okay, as you know, okay, we are in the digital world. Okay, so we are having the smartphone, the smart computer, the tablets, iPad, iPhone, and even iWatch. So actually, we can commit crime, okay, using the those kind of digital device. Okay. So now, okay, in order to resolve, okay, those kind of problems, okay, and also try to deal with those kinds of virtual cases. So we are now having a forensic computer and a digital analysis, especially, so we have to recover those kind of deleted overwritten data at the same time, okay, so within the internet, okay, can we resolve those kind of internet crime, okay, so that will be the forensic computer and the digital analysis. So as a forensic scientist, okay, so actually you could be able to see, okay, you will be working in a crime lab, okay, so applying certain kinds of skills, okay, in order to conduct the analysis. So you should be knowing all kinds of principle theory, the technique, okay, so that to making sure that all the things they are reliable, okay. So otherwise, okay, if you know nothing, just follow the procedure, maybe you have the chance, okay, you have the risk to do something wrong, okay, so you have to be professional. So in order to conduct a good analysis. So apart from working in the lab, so those kind of forensic scientists will also work in a crime scene, okay? So in order to process the crime scene, in order to pick up these physical evidence at the sample. So at the end, okay, so with the evidence that you have to present it in the court in order to act as an expert witness, okay? So to provide the expert testimony. So what I mean is, so you have to go to the court in order to present, okay, your result, okay, to the judge, to the lawyer, okay, because you can be imagine that right now, some of the cases are defending, so the lawyer will try to attack you, okay, so whether you are doing wrong or whether you are doing perfectly, does the result reliable? Actually, you need to go to the court in order to defend, okay, so how good you are, okay. So that is somehow you need to work in a crime scene, work in a crime lab, somehow at the end. So you have to go to the courtroom, okay? So somehow in order to present, okay, the result that you have. But to begin with, okay, so actually we always go back to the fundamental status, okay? So before we can really know about how we conduct the analysis, but at the very early beginning, so we try to know, okay, how we can pick up the evidence, okay, because we always need a sample, okay. So without the sample, okay, actually we cannot conduct any analysis. So on the screen, okay, actually here showing you some fundamental practice, okay, so how we can process, okay, with the crime scene. So normally that will be divided into different parts, okay. So at the very early beginning, okay, so you have to isolate the crime scene, okay, to the greatest extent, okay. So try to exclude out all the unauthorized person, okay. Because all the unauthorized person, okay, they are the potential destroyer of the physical evidence, okay, because they know nothing. If they just come into the crime scene, maybe they may destroy, they may damage, or they may contaminate, okay, the physical evidence that is recovered at the crime scene. After the evidence has been damaged, contaminated, actually it cannot be used anymore. Maybe some of the unauthorized person, okay, so they may take out, okay, some of the evidence and then escape. Actually, you are losing your sample, okay, so that is the reason why we have to isolate the crime scene to the greatest extent to exclude out all the unauthorized person. So secondly, we need, okay, to recall the crime scene, okay, so not either, okay, so both by the photograph, okay, and also the scratch, okay, because the crime scene, so normally it may not be last forever. Maybe after a day, after a week, actually the crime scene will be clean, okay. So in order to present, okay, how the crime scene look like, okay, in the courtroom, so you have to record it down. At the same time, okay, so you record down the physical evidence. So that is quite important because you have to making sure that so those evidence that you present, okay, they are really recovered in the crime scene instead of something that you put it up or actually you're doing something like 拆裝假和, okay. So actually you have to do a good record, okay. So in order to telling others, okay, so those are the things that really appear, really recover, okay, in the crime scene. Apart from the record, okay, recording, actually we have to taking some notes, okay, in order to deal with the written description. So how the crime scene, okay, is processed, okay. So that will be an important pieces of information in order to show, okay, whether you process the crime scene somehow like correctly. So who come into the crime scene to pick up the evidence, what kinds of evidence has been taken up, actually that will be serving as a double confirmation, okay, because from the record, so you have the photo and the scratch, okay, so actually two things together as a double confirmation. So with the notes, okay, for further making sure, okay, so those things they are really recovered at the crime scene. So after you do that, then you start to search, okay, so for the physical evidence, okay. So you have to do a full and systematic searching in order to pick up all the evidence. If you are missing out some of the evidence, actually you will missing out some of the link, and then that will be giving you some trouble. So after you can search for the evidence, you know what they are, then you have to pick it up, okay, so that will be the collection. So making use of some proper container, and then you pick up the evidence correctly, okay, preserve it, and then you try to set up the chain of custody, okay, so in order to tell the possession, okay, so who are owning up the evidence, and then at last, okay, you are going to prepare the evidence submission form, okay. So with the evidence submission form together with the physical evidence and the sample, then that will be sent to the crime lab, okay, for the analysis. So actually, the whole fundamental process will be divided into 7 steps, okay, started from isolation, record, note-taking, searching, collection, chain of custody, and the submission form. So in the next 2 slides, okay, I will give you further a little bit details, okay, so just a little bit, okay. So first of all, okay, for the isolation, as I already mentioned, so we have to isolate the crime scene to the greatest extent to avoid the those kind of potential destruction of the physical evidence, especially exclude out those kind of unauthorized person, okay. And for the isolation, that will be quite simple to do that, okay. So just making use of the rod and the barricade. So you just make a circle, okay? So somehow you surround, okay, the crime scene, okay? The crime scene at the center, you make use of the rod and the barricade to just surround it, okay? So inside that will be the crime scene that you're going to process. So depending on how serious it is, okay? So normally, if for some simple cases, so single containment will be good enough. So what I mean is, so with the crime scene, you make use of the rod and barricade to enclose once only, and then you work inside, and then you're the outsider, okay? So unauthorized person outside, so that will be the simplest case. But for some serious cases, so you may want to making use of the multiple containment. So for the multiple containment, what it means is you try to set up different level. So with the crime scene, okay, at the center, so you make use of the first level of containment, okay, in order to surround it. So where the investigator will be working in, okay, so in order to process the crime scene, okay. Then you may have certain kinds of expansion, okay, for a second containment. So that between, okay, the first and second containment, you can be setting up some small equipment, okay, so that with the help of the equipment, setting up some table and chair for the investigator for discussion. So actually you can do something more. And then you can apply the third level of containment, okay, in order to parking some vehicle or try to isolate away, okay, those kind of outsider. Because right now you're processing with the crime scene somehow quite seriously. If we have a lot of outsider just surrounding you and they keep talking, actually that will be a quite disturbing environment, okay? If you're working in a lab with the good laboratory practice, you know, undisturbed environment that is essential. Actually, that will still be applied, okay, in processing the crime scene. So we want an undisturbed environment so that we try to apply the multiple containment, try to isolate, okay, those kind of outsider far away, okay. So without that disturbing, actually we can somehow much more focus. So after you isolate the crime scene, we try to record the crime scene in its untouched status, okay. So as I mentioned, either by both by photo and also by the scratch. For the scratch, okay, actually that is a certain kind of drawing, okay, so that will be floor plans, okay, of the crime scene. So some people will get into the crime scene and then to draw the floor plans, okay, so what does it really look like, and then what kinds of stuff are there, okay, so they will making use of the drawing in order to present, okay, the crime scene. But taking photo, that is quite important, so you have to taking the photo for all necessary angle, okay. So because you have to seeing the overview of the crime scene, you may want to taking some close-up, okay. At the same time, you have to show, okay, so where are the evidence, and also that is be very important, showing the evidence that is there, okay. The evidence has been recovered at the crime scene. That will be a photo, okay, so as a proof, okay, to show them the evidence, okay, let's say the knife, okay, that is really coming from the crime scene, instead of some people, okay, just having a knife out and then try to 拆裝假貨, okay, so actually you need, okay, those kind of photo and also the scratch as a proof, okay, for that. And then we need to take the notes in order to process the crime scene, okay, so details, written description, okay, so some people get into the crime scene to take photos, some people get into the crime scene to search for evidence, some people collect the evidence. Actually, you need to provide with a written description, okay, in order to show, okay, so how you process with the crime scene. Actually, it is also a proof, okay, to show the others, okay, we process the crime scene in a correct manner. Okay, because actually you can be imagine that for some lawyer, okay, so they will try to attack, okay, for this kind of procedure. So do you, okay, process the crime scene correctly? Okay, so how you pick up the evidence? So is it really the evidence that you find at the crime scene? Okay, so actually you need to keep on defending yourself. Okay, if some of the part, okay, you cannot, okay, defend yourself. Okay, or there is certain kind of weak point, okay, that is attacked by the lawyer. Maybe some of the evidence may be being disqualified, then actually that will be in a disaster. Because if certain kinds of evidence that has been disqualified, okay, that means, okay, that kind of information, you cannot use it. So without that kind of information, you may not be able to connect all the events, all the things together to come up with a full story. Because in Hong Kong, okay, so we do, okay, with the benefit of doubt. So 疑點利益歸於被告. So if now, okay, something that is doubtful, the benefit will be given to the suspect. Okay, actually the case may not be convicted. Okay, maybe you really know, okay, he is the murderer, but right now within the court, okay, so actually some of things that is being disqualified, so you cannot, okay, saying that, okay, he is the murderer. Okay, so actually they will be in a big trouble. So please making sure that all the things are following with the correct procedure. So after you start to taking with the notes, then you start to search with the crime scene. Okay, so most probably it has to be thorough and systematic. Okay, so you have to search for all the area within the crime scene, depending on how you do it. Either you can be making use of the group method, spiral method, or with a team of investigators, you can deal with a parallel or in a zone method. Okay. So in the details of the searching method, okay, so you can just Google, okay, so don't worry. But what I try to say is you have to walk through, okay, so the crime scene somehow in details without missing out any of the area. Because you may be somewhere you can contain, okay, it can be recovered with the physical evidence. So if you miss out some of the area, meaning that you may miss out some of the evidence, you're missing out some of the information, then you cannot draw the conclusion. Okay, so you have to search, okay, the crime scene somehow in details. So after you search for the crime scene, probably you can know, okay, which one that is a physical evidence or another one that is another physical evidence. Then you start, okay, to think, okay, how we can collect it. Most importantly, there is one thing, okay, bear in mind is individual packing. What it means is one container for one physical evidence. Okay, so never store, okay, so two evidence in one container. Because you can be imagine that, okay, from the exchange principle, okay, so when the things, okay, be in contact with each other, so you will have the material transfer. So now from one evidence transfer to another evidence. So this evidence will be transferred to this evidence. So actually that will be a contamination. Okay, so you cannot do that. At the same time, okay, so if you do have two evidence together, if they are having some collision, so maybe you are damaging the evidence. Okay, so that's why, okay, so it has to be individual packing. And for the proper container, we do have several, okay, so we can apply the druggless flow, okay, so druggless flow, okay, for some small fine powder. And for the paper bag, we will use it for some blood-stained object. And for the screw cap, gas, and the plastic wire, we can store some small physical evidence. And we can also have the plastic bag, okay, to store with something larger, okay. And we do have the airtight container to store something that is volatile, okay. So most likely when you are dealing with the arson cases, okay, so 縱火案, or even some cases with the explosion, okay, so under high temperature, you know, everything could be volatile, okay, so volatile meaning that they will be escaped with a vapor, okay. So if you are storing with the normal screw cap plastic wire, actually those kind of vapor will be just going away. You are losing your analyte. So that's why, okay, for those kind of cases, with the volatile substance, you need to make use, okay, of the airtight container, okay. So using a proper container, it is very essential because if now, okay, you have something very, very small, you just put it into a screw cap plastic vial, actually, that will be just leach out. That is why, okay, it's very, very small powder that will be in the druggless flow, okay. So plastic bag for the blood-stained material, okay, to avoid any accumulation of moisture, because with the accumulation of moisture, actually there will be a growth of the bacteria. Actually, the physical evidence will be decomposed. Okay, so that is why, okay, you have to making use of a proper container. So at last, okay, you need to do a vacuum, okay, for some critical area, because most likely from our naked eyes, okay, so we may miss out something. So in order to play safe, okay, so you do a vacuum, okay, for the critical area in order to pick up something that may be missed. And then to pick up the evidence, somehow you have to do it in conformity with the legal procedure. So that means, okay, you have to apply the warrants, okay, so from the court, okay, because different person, they have the right, okay, to own, okay, their object or their own stuff, okay. If you just pick it up and then actually there will be a thief, okay, so you steal someone's object, okay, steal someone's things, okay. So actually you need to apply, okay, with the warrants, okay. So in Chinese that is the 搜查令. So normally, okay, you need to apply to the court, okay. Now I try to search the crime scene, so you have to provide us with the authority so that we can pick up the evidence. So when you walk into the crime scene to pick up the evidence, most likely you need to protect yourself, okay. But at the same time, they will be protecting the evidence as well, because you cannot just making use of your bare hand, okay, to pick up the evidence, because right now your fingerprints, okay, will be transferred to the evidence that is on the surface, okay. You have to wear the glove, okay. At the same time, you may be provided with the check suit, okay, in order to avoid, okay, maybe your hair will be falling down, okay, to the crime scene. Then the hair picking up that is the investigator's hair, and actually we don't want these kind of cases happen, okay. So try to protect you and also protect, okay, with the evidence. So after you collect the evidence, then we try to set up the chain of custody. So in the chemical term, okay, so that will be equivalent to the traceability. So the physical evidence that is traceable from time zero. So what it means is now, okay, you pick up the evidence, okay, then you pass, okay, the evidence to another investigator, okay. So actually you have a written form, okay, to be written down now, okay. So Gray, okay, pass the evidence, let's say, to Peter, okay. Then now, okay, Peter passed the evidence to Mary to conduct the analysis. Actually, you need, okay, to be dealing with this kinds of change of custody in order to telling who came into the possession of the evidence. Because any missing of the evidence for, let's say, 1 second, so actually that 1 second will be doubtful. So within that 1 second, any change, okay, for the evidence. So is there some people try to replace, okay, the evidence by different object, okay, or some people try to modify the evidence actually within that 1 second, okay. So the doubtful 1 second will leading to a disqualification of the evidence in court, okay. So you have to prepare the chain of custody in order to review the possession of the evidence for all the time. At last, okay, before you submit it to the lab, you have to prepare the evidence submission form, okay, in order to tell the lab, okay, so what kinds of analysis that you want, okay, because in the lab, okay, for the chemists, okay, so actually they will just perform the experiment. They will not ask, okay, so with these kinds of evidence, or what kinds of things I should do. Actually, they will be just like a machine, okay, to conduct the test. Okay, so what kinds of tests, okay, should be conducted, okay, will be laid out by the submission form, okay, so right there. And also within the submission form, you need to provide with a general description. So what I mean is you cannot put it down some specific term. So let's say you suspected that that is a blood, but what you try to written down that is red color liquid, okay. Don't try to giving some bias, okay, so to the chemist, okay. So red color liquid, then I try to check with the blood analysis. Or maybe now, okay, we can see some colorless liquid, okay. So we try to check whether that is water or that is the alcohol. Maybe now, okay, we are having some white powder. So we try to check with the drug analysis, okay. So in order to see, okay, so whether what kinds of drug it is, okay. So put it like a general description. So colorless liquid, white powder, red color liquid, okay. So you can do it like this way. Okay, so at this moment, so any questions or problem before I move on, okay, so to describe certain kinds of evidence that we can have, okay, because right now, what we have been talking about, so we have been including surface, okay, so in the lab, we also talk about how we can process the crime scene, but most importantly, okay, the evidence that we need, okay. So right now, any questions or problem? Okay, so seems good. Okay, so no question is good. Okay, so before I talk about the physical evidence, so just try to do a reminder to you. Okay, so right before, okay, when we are trying to talk about how we can process a crime scene. Okay, so actually we talk about a little bit. So how, okay, the evidence would be being disqualified, especially the recording, okay, so actually we're giving you some things there. So if you're missing with the record, actually the evidence will be disqualified. So for the collection, if you are using a improper container, so that will be disqualified. Or right now you collect it with damage, you collect it with contamination, then that will be disqualified. So for the chain of custody, okay, so without any second, okay, so that has been doubtful, okay, so actually that will be a problem, okay, so actually there are somewhere, okay, so you need to pay attention. Otherwise, okay, you are following a trap that the evidence that you have, okay, that is being disqualified, and then you are missing out with the information, okay. So now, okay, we start to talk about the physical evidence. So actually, almost all the item, okay, so in the crime scene, okay, you can be treated that as a physical evidence. But if you pick all the item back to the lab to conduct the analysis, actually you need a lot of effort. And also it is not practical to do so. So therefore, we try to collect some item, okay, that is some more important, okay, so towards the crime case. So what it means is you need to know about, okay, the priority, okay, of the different item. Okay, so maybe this one that is more important, another one that is less important. So this one that is nothing, okay, then you try, okay, to say, okay, so which one should I take? Okay, so you need to know about the respective priority. So for the evidence, it can be divided into 3 different categories. Okay, so we have the object, okay, so it could be the weapons, the tools, or different kinds of things, okay. So it could be some body material, okay, or we say that that is the biological sample. So the blood, the semen, the hair, the urine, okay, so those kind of things related to the victim or for the suspect. We can also have the impression, okay, so either it could be a fingerprint, so fingerprint that is an impression. So tie thread, through footprints, okay, 2 marks, okay, so those are certain kinds of mark, okay, left behind after certain kinds of contact. Okay, so we have 3 different classes of the physical evidence. But most importantly, what I try to let you know is, so with each of the physical evidence, so with each of the object or body fluid or even the impression, so what kinds of information most likely that we could obtain? So let's say for the body fluid, okay, with the blood, with the semen, with the saliva, so actually we can be able to deal with the DNA analysis. So we can obtain a DNA sequence. So actually with the DNA, okay, you know, okay, that is the unique things, okay, related to an individual. So with the checking with the blood, checking with the body fluid, with the DNA, actually we can know about, so who are there. Okay, so that will be quite straightforward. Okay, so from the blood sample, from the semen, from the saliva, or even from the urine. So actually we can be able to know, okay, who are there. Okay, so that will be quite straightforward, very, very important. So in view of the document, if you think that that is a document, question document, okay, so actually you can check with the handwriting or the typewriting. So as I mentioned, for the handwriting, obviously you can be able to know, okay, who writes, okay, so this document. So actually, if you know who writes, okay, on this document, then actually you know for a person. For the typewriting, you can be able to check with the printer, okay. So with the printer, then we can check with the computer, then actually we can know about who have been logging in, okay, to the computer. So actually we'll also go back to a person, okay. Actually, when we hear from me like this way is, one of the ways that we do is, we try to go back to a person. From the physical evidence towards a person, okay, that is somehow very important, because in a crime case, there should be some murderer, there should be some guy doing something bad, there should be a victim. So we have to connect, okay, all the things together towards some persons, okay, in order to somehow wrap up the crime case, okay. So another kind of physical evidence that we can encounter, that is the drug. So most likely what we try to say is the legal one versus the illegal one. Because if you are having the legal one, the legal drug, actually there should be no problem. But right now, if you are dealing with the illegal drug, okay, so actually either you are selling the drug or you are keeping the drug 藏毒或者販毒, actually both action, okay, they are illegal, okay. Apart from the drug analysis to tell whether that is the legal or illegal, actually we may have the cases for the drug poisoning. Okay, so with the drug poisoning cases, maybe some people are having a lot of barbiturates, okay, so 安眠藥, then actually he or she will sleep forever. Okay, so actually overdose of barbiturates, then to still be a little bit drug analysis in order to see whether that is a suicide cases or not. Okay, so actually we have to check with the drug. Okay, especially legal one or illegal one. With the drug, okay, we can also be able to check for the manufacturer or even for the seller. So actually it will be a way that we go back to the origin, okay, so to a person. So for the explosive cases, okay, so for the explosion cases, what we try to assume is under explosion, so those kind of explosive, okay, will not be all consumed. So after explosion, there should be some explosive residue left behind. So if right now you're working a fire cases, so actually searching for explosive, that is one of the direction that you need to do. Okay, because it is somehow we assume there should be some residue left behind. So if you can check that there are certain kind of explosive, then you will know that is a explosion cases. So for the fiber, you can say that there could be certain kinds of hair. So from the hair, okay, so actually we can know, okay, what kinds of animal are there. Because from the hair, it could belong to a human, it could belong to a dog, or even belong to a cat. Actually, there could be some fiber hair exchange, okay, because hair and fiber could be intact, okay, so for a very, very long time, okay, because maybe you can be imagine that, so within the crime scene, we can find some hair of a dog, but actually inside the house, there is somehow no dog are there, but why there are some dog hair? So should be someone bringing in, okay, then actually there will be a way, okay, for you to help with the investigation. So other than that, the fiber could be coming from your consumable, especially for your clothing, okay? So from the clothing, actually those kind of fiber could be quite unique, okay? So for those kind of fiber, then actually you can be matching with the clothing, then actually you can trace back to the person, okay, so who wear the clothes. So fingerprints, I don't think I need to say anymore, okay, everybody know that fingerprint that will be related to an individual, okay, strictly going to some person, okay, so that will be really, really important. So for the gun and bullets, okay, actually I have been mentioned to you that when the gun shoot out a bullet, the bullets will having some service marking, okay, that will be belongs, okay, to the gun, okay, so actually that will be close related to each other, okay, so with the bullets, actually there will be a way that you find with the gun. So with the gun, then actually you can be seeing what kind of bullet will be shooting out. So for the glass, okay, so normally with some cases, let's say force break-in, okay, to an apartment, actually people may try to make use of a hammer in order to break the window or to break the door frame, okay, so that there will be some glass powder, glass fragment are there. So for the glass, normally when you try to break a window, so normally we will have a bad scatter of the glass powder, okay, so the person who break, okay, the glass, okay, will be full of the glass powder. So actually there will be a way that you can check who has broken the glass, okay. So for hair, I have been mentioned already with the fiber. For the impression, let's say the shoe print, the tie prints, or the bike mark, actually they will also be unique, okay, because let's say for the tie prints, so that is the tie, okay, so from the vehicle. So for different vehicle, okay, the wearing of the tie will also be different. Actually, they will also be the same, okay, for our shoe prints. Because different person, they will walk differently. Okay, so the wearing of the shoe, okay, so actually will also be different. Okay, so actually, by checking with the shoe prints, actually we can know who has been entering the crime scene. So for the organ, actually that will be the poison analysis, but actually it will be in a disaster, okay, if somebody has been cutting out and then organ are there, okay, by default, okay, organ are there, they will be somehow abnormal. Actually, there is something that you need to pick up. So for the paint, normally there will be somehow like a hit and run cases. So when the two cars crash to each other and then they run away, okay, so actually there will be a transfer of the paint, okay, towards each of the car. Okay, so actually it will be the way that to check whether which two cars crashing with each other. So another kind of paint sample, there will be a transfer from the tools, okay, so from the other object. For example, like we are now force breaking in, okay, some apartment, you may making use of a hammer in order to force open the door frame, okay. So actually the door frame, the paint will be transferred to the hammer or to the screwdriver. So actually there will be a transfer of the paint. Okay, if right now you find a tools, actually the paint match with the door frame, actually you know which weapon, okay, has been opened up the door. For the petroleum product, most likely what we try to say that is the gasoline or the kerosene. So normally that will be the arson cases, 縱火案. So we assume that for the gasoline and the kerosene, actually they will not be used up, okay, after a fire. So there should be certain kind of residue, okay, just the same as the explosive, okay, so that if right now you are treating handling with a fire cases, then to see whether the gasoline or the kerosene will be a way, okay, to check whether that is an accident or that is really some people meeting a fire there. So plastic bag, so there will be quite an evidence that you can check with the murderer cases. Because if right now you are making use of plastic bag in order to kill someone, so actually outside you have the fingerprints, okay, for the murderer to hold in the plastic bag, and then inside the plastic bag, okay, the victim have been breathing a lot. Actually, you can find a lot of saliva. So actually, inside there will be the information for the victim. Outside there will be the information for the murderer. So you can deal with this kind of plastic bag analysis. So for the powder residue, that will be related to the gunshot residue. As I mentioned, when you shoot out the gun, actually your hand will be full of the gunshot residue. So actually you will know, okay, you have been using the gun to shoot out the bullets. And then for the soil and mineral, as well as the wood and vegetative matter, there will be something quite abnormal if you can find some soil or the vegetative matter indoor. Okay, because normally in an indoor environment, there should not be those kind of soil or vegetative matter. Okay, so those kind of soil and the vegetative matter will be belonging to somewhere outside. Okay, then with this kind of information, then you can be able to check. Okay, so this soil belongs to where, this vegetative matter belongs to where. So actually you can be foreseeing that. So for the victim or even from the murderer, so they have been visited somewhere before they get into the crime scene. Okay, so that is something like abnormal, okay, in the indoor, especially for the soil and the vegetative matter. So for the tool mark, okay, so actually there will be the mark, okay, left behind. So the hammer, the screwdriver, spinner, actually when you're trying to hitting for some objects, so there will be some tool mark left behind. Okay, so we still, okay, could be able to check what kinds of weapon has been used or what kind of tool has been used. So what we have been mentioned for the tool marks that will be related to, let's say, for the glass fragment or even for the paint transfer, because you can imagine that you are now using a tools in order to force break in, okay, a window, a door. Actually, there will be a tool mark left behind, apart from the paint transfer. Okay, so actually just try to telling you that, okay, the importance of the evidence, okay, so what kind of information hopefully that we can obtain. But right now, what I try to do is, right now, we're assuming that we are conducting the analysis. But in terms of the analysis, what kinds of objective, okay, so we are aiming for? So most likely, the first kind of objective, that is the identification, okay? After you pick up the evidence, okay, then you try to conduct the analysis to identify what it is. So basically, for the red color lacquer, maybe you try to identify whether that is a blood or whether that is a ketchup or even that is a red color ink. Okay, so actually you need to identify what it is. Maybe let's say for the white powder, you may try to analyze it whether that is a table salt or even that is a sugar or even that is an illegal drug or even that is an explosive. Okay, so we need an identification. Okay, so that is quite trivial. Okay, because for a chemical analysis, identifying what it is something like basic. But apart from the identification, so sometime, okay, so we need to apply the quantification. So just some time, okay. because it will be quite meaningless. Okay, so let's say, so now we have been identified that, okay, the red color liquid is blood. Then we try to quantify it, there is 5 ml of blood are there. Actually, that kind of quantity will be meaningless. So no need to do any quantification. Or even for the black color fiber. So you know that is a certain kinds of hair, human hair. Then you try to quantify. So now I have 1,000 strands of hair. So actually that kind of number, okay, that kind of quantity, actually that will mean nothing. But for some situation, let's say for the poison analysis, okay, in the toxicology, so because, okay, the dosage, okay, of the poison will really seeing what kinds of effect, okay, will become up. So at that moment, you need the quantity. Or even for the drug analysis, okay, so for the drug analysis, you need to quantify, okay, in order to tell whether the amount that is small amounts, then that will be you are owning the drug, okay, 藏毒. If now, okay, after the quantification, that is there is quite a large amount of drug, okay, then that will be you aim for selling the drug, that will be 贩毒. So actually the penalty will be different. So that will be a two exceptional situation that quantification that is necessary. For most of the case, okay, after we identify what it is, and then that will be the case. Okay, so identification, that is a must. Quantification, we sometimes do it. Okay, so we are not always doing that. So apart from the identification, so after identifying what it is, so we try to deal with the comparison. Okay, so that will be a comparison. Because what you hear from me is we try to go back to the origin. So the blood, okay, belongs to who? The bullet belongs to which gun? The document, okay, belongs to who? So we try to make use of the comparison, okay, in order to trace back the origin, okay, of the physical evidence. Normally, what we do is we have the unknown sample, okay, so that is the unknown physical evidence. Then we try to put it side by side with a known reference, okay. If they are the same, then they are the same. So you know about the origin. So unknown versus a known one. Then right here, what you can be imagine is, apart from picking up the evidence at the crime scene, so actually we need to pick up some reference, okay, so at the same time. Otherwise, okay, you will not have any known origin sample, okay, to deal with the comparison. So those kind of reference, okay, can be picking up from the victim, from the suspect, okay. So actually, from the victim and suspect, you can get with the reference, okay, for the comparison purpose. So normally, when we deal with the comparison, we are seeing two kinds of characteristics. So the first kind of characteristic that we check, that is the individual characteristics. And then the other kinds of characteristic that we check, that is the class characteristic. So by the name, okay, what you know is individual characteristic will be quite unique, okay? So if you are compare with the individual characteristic, actually the result will be just 100%. If you are matching with the individual characteristic, actually that is no denying that, so it must be the same, okay? But for the class characteristic, it will just, okay, go for a group of population, okay? Because it will not be that unique, okay? It is maybe quite general, but it's still a little bit specific. So therefore, they will just pinpoint to a group of person. So if right now you want to make use of the class characteristic, okay, in order to pinpoint to the origin, so you need some more, okay? So you need some more class characteristic, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? If all the 5 class characteristics, okay, you match with that, actually that is no, in the world, that possibility that another person will matching for the all kinds of parameter. So we need, okay, some more class characteristic, okay, in order to be 100%, okay, to get back to the origin. So here just showing you with certain kinds of characteristic that we can have. Okay, so for the individual one, that will be quite straightforward. Okay, so fingerprints, as far as you know, that is unique to an individual. For the bullets, okay, for the service trademark, actually that will be related to the gun, also quite unique. And then for the supines, okay, as far as you know, okay, different person work differently, then the supine will be different. So handwriting, different person will write differently. DNA analysis or the DNA sequence that will also be unique, okay? So that is why, okay, if you are matching with these kinds of individual characteristics, that is no denying, okay? And for the class characteristic, okay, they are quite general. So let's say the paint color, the glasses that you wear, the clothing that you wear, or even for the blood group. So making use of the blood group as an example, okay, so for example, like the blood group A. So actually blood group A will be corresponding to 26% of the overall population. So if you just based on the blood group in order to say, okay, so this blood should belong to this victim, actually it may not be, because 26% of the population will also be blood group A. So actually you need some more, okay, so in order to pinpoint to the individual, okay, so that is somehow how, okay, we deal with that. Okay, if you are lucky to have the individual characteristic, then no denying you can get back to the origin quite straightforward. So if now you can only check with the class characteristic, then you need some more. Now, okay, so right now what you have been telling that is when you are dealing with the comparison, you need a reference. The reference that is coming from the victim or coming from the suspect. In case that none of the victim, none of the suspect matching, okay, to the unknown sample. So how you do that? So another way is you can try to go back database. There may be some reference, okay, for you to check. For example, in the world, okay, we do have some fingerprints database. We do have certain kinds of DNA database. We have the ballistic database. We have the vehicle paints database. So we have the supines database. So actually, when those kinds of consumable being sold, okay, to the customer, okay, so the manufacturer will be stored with the database. So for the DNA, okay, or for the fingerprints, in Hong Kong, you know, okay, so for everybody, if you are having the ID card, okay, so you are recorded with your fingerprints already. So actually, Hong Kong have the database system. For the DNA, we don't know, okay, because later on we will have the compulsory test, okay, so everybody now, okay, you are provided with your DNA already, okay, but if now, okay, if you cannot find some reference, then cross-check with the database. Maybe there is an answer there. So after you are knowing all the things, okay, at the last step, so that is the crime scene reconstruction. So we try to reconstruct, okay, so what was happened, okay, so at the crime case. Because the crime case has been committed, okay, so we don't have any time machine, okay, to find back to see what was happened. But based on the information that we have, obviously, we can know what was happened. So try to make use of our logical thinking, try to arrange the sequence of the events, okay, and then we come up with a full picture, okay. So those kind of full picture will be a most likely sequence of the events, okay. So try to tell, okay, the story. So the murderer come into the room and then go to the kitchen to pick up the knife and then go to the living room, okay, to argue with the victim and then quite angry, just kill him, okay. After killing him, the murderer just run away and then towards which direction. So actually, based on the information, we can retell, okay. So what kinds of situation was happened, okay. So that will be the whole story, okay. So actually how we do with the forensic science, okay, how we can apply the science to the court law, okay. So starting from the sample, process the crime scene, how we do the analysis, how we deal with the identification and the comparison to obtain the information and reconstructing the crime scene for the whole story, present the story to the courtroom in order to let the judge, okay, to make the conclusion, okay. So that is what I want to share with you for today, okay. So next Tuesday, so we are going to talk about the new content. So that will be the abused drug identification. So that will be the drug analysis. Okay, so thanks for attending the class today. Then I will stay here for 5 more minutes. Okay, so if you do have any questions or problems, so just let me know. Okay, so otherwise, so see every one of you next Tuesday.